TuneIn is the audio platform with something for everyone. News.
In order to secure convictions in a court of law, it is essential that we conclusively.
Sports.
Got clock at 4. Doncic. The step back 3. You bet.
Music.
You set my world on fire. Yes,
and even podcasts. Whatever you love, hear it right here on TuneIn. Go to TuneIn.com or download the TuneIn app to start listening.
Start your summer road trip at Midas and get up to $30 off your next repair service. Plus, get a free closer look vehicle check to make sure you're road trip ready. So if you need a brake service and alignment check or tune-up, hit up Midas for up to $30 off. For more details, request your appointment at Midas.com.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature. Whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes, nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today and make the most of your summer with All Trails.
It's time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers Web Zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al and Brian.
What's up, faithful? I'm Al Sacco with you for another edition of the 49ers Web Zone No Huddle Podcast, part of the Odyssey Network. I'm flying solo today because my co-host Brian Reddick isn't feeling well. So if you follow Brian on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, reach out to Brian. Say you hope he's feeling better. Hopefully he'll be back. I hope early next week because it's definitely not the same show without Brian. All right. It's June, which means there's pretty much nothing going on, at least NFL-wise. It's that idle time of year, but that doesn't mean my brain stops going and I stop thinking about football. Dude, I am always thinking about football. I'm that guy that sits on the couch and his wife walks in the room and, she'll ask me, why do you look so miserable? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm fine. But really, I was thinking about how Bruce Miller got held on the Ravens kick return on the touchdown run in the 2012 Super Bowl. It's kind of pathetic, but that's what goes through my head. Always thinking NFL, always have different things going on inside my brain, especially when it comes to the 49ers. But look, it's not that pathetic because I do have a job talking about football, right? So it kind of justifies it, I guess, at least in my head it does. Someone's actually paying me to do this. So it's okay. I mean, a few years ago, maybe not so much, but now it's okay if I'm just sitting and constantly talking about thinking about football. So what's on my mind right now? What's on Al's mind in mid-June when nothing is going on? Well, there's a few things that are on my mind right now. Trent Williams and his possible contract situation is on my mind. Brandon Aiyuk and his definite contract situation is on my mind. A little bit of stats and things I read about Kyle Shanahan I wanted to talk about. And there's a defensive player on the 49ers. He's a new player on the team this year that no one is talking about that I think is going to play a gigantic role in the team's success in 2024. And I think people need to start talking about him. And we'll get to that. But let me start with Trent Williams. So there's rumblings going on from Jeremy Fowler that Williams might want a new deal. Okay, so first of all, how essential is Trent Williams to the 49ers? How much does this left tackle mean to the success of Kyle Shanahan's offense and to Brock Purdy and all these other guys around him? I read a stat from Kyle Posey of Niners Nation. So he wrote that last season, Williams only committed 3 penalties and didn't allow a sack while he surrendered 1 run stuff 3 times on 359 snaps, meaning he was beaten against the run 0.8% of the time, a number that's been the same for 3 or 4 years since Williams has been in the Bay. So he's just been dominant, and those stats back it up. And if you look last year at the Niners' 3-game losing streak, yeah, there was no Debo, but Williams was banged up or not playing in those 3 games too, and that was a big reason why they couldn't break 17 points. And the Niners are actually 3-6 without Trent Williams, even with Williams for most of the season. So if you look, obviously Williams is this all-pro, going to the Hall of Fame left tackle. He's a dominant guy, but even with him for most of the season, the Niners' pass blocking grade was 57.2%, which was 24th in the NFL. And that was actually the only facet where they ranked outside of the top 10. So they need to improve their pass blocking, especially in straight drop back situations when they're running play action and things are working in Kyle's scheme and they're ahead, things tend to work great. But those straight dropbacks, they need help. And without having Trent Williams there, my God, I can't even imagine that. And there is a significant drop off after Williams with tackle on the roster. They certainly didn't address tackle this offseason, at least not for the future. A lot of people thought they would go there in the draft. That didn't happen. So Williams is kind of the guy, man. They need him. And, this is the way I see it. If he does want a new deal, if Williams is out there and he's saying, you know what, we need to rework this. I don't think it's because he plans on playing much longer. Like he's like, all right, I want to add years and everything else. He's about to turn 36 in July. And in his current 6-year deal that he signed with the team is going to take him through to 2026. So the thing about his deal, there's no guaranteed money left on the contract, even though he still has these 3 years left. Now, Williams is due to make $20.5 million this year, $22.5 million next year, and $32 million in 2026. And he's likely never to see 2026 based on this contract anyway. His cap hits are big. His cap hits are $31.5 million this year, $34 million, and $37.8 in 2026 in that year that I don't think he's going to see. So to me, if there is credence to this, if this is something that Williams wants, I feel like it's similar to the McCaffrey deal. Here's what I mean. So Trent Williams likely does not intend to play until he's 40. Highly doubt that's what he's looking for here. I don't think that's his motivation. Instead, I think it's more likely he's looking for for something similar to what CMC did, which was guaranteed money this year and next year, along with a pay raise for this year and next year. So Penei Sewell from Detroit just got $28 million per year with the Lions, and Williams would probably like to see a bump up close to that with some guarantees. So again, what that does is it guarantees him money this year. And you say, well, they're not going to move on for Trent Williams. What if he blows his knee out? And then maybe they would move on from him after this year. You don't know what's going to happen. So he probably wants to lock in some guarantees in the next 2 years. The 2 years he probably intends to play with a pay bump. Listen, I've been best left tackle in the league. I'm an all-pro. You see what happens when I'm not here. Give me a raise similar to what you did to McCaffrey. Put it on now. And then maybe what that might do for the additional years, maybe it'll free up some cap space moving forward. And also similar to what they did with McCaffrey. After these 2 years happen, these 2 guarantees with the raises, what you can do is have team options with no guarantees. So that it locks in one of your best players for this year and next year. He's happy. He's going to be around for the next 2 years because he's got the guaranteed money. And then after that, if he's still playing at a high level and the marriage is still there, the Niners would have the option to, keep him there in 2026 and 2027. But I mean, is he really going to be a top left tackle at 39 or 40? I don't know. This looks like it would be a short-term thing to make him happy to me, which, listen, I'm fine with. Should the Niners do this? Sure. If it means it's going to keep him happy and he's around for a couple more years, then absolutely. I mean, all this really is spending Jed York's money, right? It shouldn't negatively affect the cap, down the line, because it's essentially a 2-year thing. And like I said, maybe you could even free up some space. So the Niners have done a good job of taking care of their players. They typically do. There has been the DeForest Buckner situation. That stuff happens. But for the most part, they've taken care of the guys that are on the roster, and they're good players. They give them extensions. They give them raises, like you just saw with McCaffrey. They do that. Now, they do have some decisions to make moving forward. But I think Trent Williams, I think it's an easy decision. You got cap money this year. You have extra money. Do whatever, miracles Prague Marathe works with the cap. Figure it out and give him a pay bump this year, next year. And I think everybody's happy. I don't have an issue with it at all.
Plug in a Hyundai EV and the extraordinary happens. It's not just the ultra-fast charging capability and long range in the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6, or the adventure-seeking spirit of the Kona Electric, or the groundbreaking 601 horsepower Ioniq 5N. And it's not just the comfort in knowing that every Hyundai EV is backed by a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited electric battery warranty. Hyundai's EVs transform a low hum into a loud adventure. They bring color to your journey and turn energy into main character energy. So forget everything you thought you knew about EVs and turn the extraordinary into something truly electrifying. there's joy in every journey.
EPA estimated 303-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 5 SE SEL limited rear-wheel drive and 361-mile driving range for 2024 Ioniq 6 SE long-range rear-wheel drive with fully charged battery. Estimated range varies for other models and trims and depends on battery capacity, temperature options, and other factors. Limited battery warranty covers defects and materials for 10 years or 100,000 miles, whichever occurs first. See owner's manual for complete warranty details and limitations. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details.
Nerds! Today's episode is sponsored by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. Ready to expand your financial game? NerdWallet can coach you on smart strategies like choosing investments, finding your next credit card, and setting a budget that works for you. Score major points towards your summer vacation by learning expert tips for choosing a high-yield savings account and how to build wealth by investing in index funds. Slide into summer with smarter decisions in 2024. Follow NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Future you will thank you.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app to get free delivery on your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Now, that brings me to Brandon Aiyuk. Another rumor that we heard from our friend of the show, Mike Silver, that the Niners offer is probably around $26 million a year for him. Not sure on the guarantees. Here's the thing with Aiyuk to me. Whether you think he's a top 5 receiver or a top 15 receiver, or he's somewhere in between, I think the 49ers are coming at this from what does he mean to our team? How important is he to our team? And I'll explain. The 49ers had 4 players break 100 targets in 2023. McCaffrey, Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Aiyuk. Now, Aiyuk did lead the team during the regular season, but his 105 targets were 36th in the NFL. The alpha dog, if there is one, on the 49ers offense is McCaffrey. But still, BA is their number 1 receiver, even if it's still by a small margin. But he's not. Aiyuk isn't an alpha dog target monster like a CeeDee Lamb or an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I'm going to leave Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill sort of out of this because to me, they're clearly the top 3 wide receivers. Aiyuk is I think, in that maybe in that next level or next tier, or even maybe a tier down from that, depending on what you think of his game. But well, let's take CeeDee Lamb, for example, okay? Lamb was targeted 181 times last season. 181. That's a lot of targets. Now, that's 79 more than the next closest Cowboy. Tight end Jake Ferguson had 102. So that's a pretty big jump there in targets. Lamb is that passing offense. If you add BA's targets and receptions together from last season, it still doesn't equal 181. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown is another interesting name to me. A lot of people have reached out to me on Twitter and social media and said, listen, Al, I think he's better than St. Brown. I know they're different wide receivers. I know St. Brown plays in the slot. But whether you think that or not, here's the bottom line with St. Brown. In St. Brown's contract, he's making $30 million per year. And the way his contract is set up, where it's basically $28 million, and then the final year it jumps to 36. So the average comes out at 30. But it is a $30 million per year deal, and he's got $77 million guaranteed. So can the 49ers justify paying him like Amon-Ra St. Brown? Here's the thing. They're not used in the same way in terms of value. And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, where the 49ers might be coming from with that $26 million a year number. St. Brown has 310 targets the last 2 years. He's just a bigger part of the passing game for the Lions than Aiyuk is for the Niners. So St. Brown was targeted, if you look at 2023 in the regular season, he was targeted 10 plus times or more 7 times last year, and 9 or more 11 times. Aiyuk was just targeted 10 plus times once, and it was exactly 10. And when you put 10 times and 9 times together, just 3 times. So 9 or more targets 3 times for Aiyuk. That's it. So it's kind of hard to justify. God, if you're coming from the Niners in your contract negotiation, well, we don't use him in that volume. It's not the way our offense runs. So while you may feel, again, regardless, you may feel Aiyuk, you know what, if he was on the Bills he'd get 170 targets and he'd have 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns. And it may very well be true, but that's not the way he's used on the 49ers. So where does he fall? Okay. Player A, spoiler, this is Brandon Aiyuk. The past 2 seasons, he has 219 targets, 153 catches, 2,357 yards, and 15 TDs. Player B has 221 targets, 147 catches, 2,370 yards, and 12 TDs the last 2 years. Player B got a $28 million per year contract and $76 million in guarantees. That's Jalen Waddle. To me, real easy. That's where Aiyuk falls in money-wise. And you may say, Al, wait a minute. Jalen Waddle is a number 2 wide receiver. Isn't you just say Aiyuk was a number 1 wide receiver on the Niners? Yeah, but it's different usage, like I talked about, and their numbers are similar. So even though Waddle may be number 2 on his team because Tyreek Hill is the alpha dog, Christian McCaffrey is probably the alpha dog on the Niners. You could argue even Deebo Samuel, when he's healthy, may get more touches. Well, he probably will get more touches than Aiyuk because the carries are included in that. So, but that's the market for the receiver. So if the Niners want to re-sign him, that's about where they need to go. So what makes sense to me, I don't know, this is just common sense to me. If Brandon Aiyuk wants $30 million and the Niners are offering $26 million and all the numbers say that he should be at $28 million, that's to me where it's going to meet. That's where it's going to get done. If both sides want this done, you meet at that $28 million per year mark. And the guarantees are going to have to be similar. If you want to give him a little bit more guaranteed than Waddle, so Waddle has $76 million in guarantees. Do you maybe, and St. Brown has 77, you give him 77.5 or 78. Maybe that's where that you have to go. Will San Francisco go there? I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of those situations with Bosa last year. I don't care how long it went. The Niners were not letting Nick Bosa go. I mean, come on. It just wasn't happening. I felt the same way about George Kittle and Fred Warner. With Aiyuk, I don't know, man. Look at the one other situation, the one sort of outlier with this regime where a real, I don't want to say great player, but really, really, really good player, at least, was let go. And that was DeForest Buckner. And he was huge in the locker room. Now, they traded him and they drafted his replacement, right? The plan was, okay, we're going to extend Eric Armstead. We're going to trade DeForest Buckner. And then we're going to draft his replacement, Javon Kinlaw. It didn't work out. They ended up having to sign Javon Hargrave. But that was the plan. The Niners kind of, you could argue, already drafted Aiyuk's replacement. Ricky Pearsall is replacing either Aiyuk or Deebo, right? He's replacing one of them. That's what he was drafted to do. So you could make the argument the Niners may say at some point, look, we're just not on the same page. Play out your 5th-year option, and then we'll see what happens between you and Deebo, and then they make a decision. There's no saying you have to move on from Deebo Samuel after this year. I mean, it looks that way. If Aiyuk is signed long-term, they're going to move on from Deebo. But if he's not, there's nothing written in stone like they have to get rid of Deebo Samuel. There's nothing. So if the Niners decide to go in a different way and he plays out his 5th-year option and they franchise him and trade him or whatever happens, I think they can certainly go that route. Now, here's the other. I'm playing devil's advocate for where the Niners are coming from. Maybe this is where the situation's headed. Are the Niners going to change to more of a pass-first team? Are they going to change the way they play with a quarterback that they trust a little more in Brock Purdy? That's completely possible. So if they look at Aiyuk and they say, all right, listen, past couple of years, he's had a little bit over 100 targets. He's been a piece of the puzzle. He's not the alpha dog in our offense, although they clearly really like him. And why wouldn't he? He's a terrific player. But as we move forward, as we move away from a Deebo Samuel, who's more of a Jimmy Garoppolo type wide receiver, where you could throw him a short pass and let him run around. Whereas now with Purdy, where you have someone who throws with anticipation and it can throw more and you trust to throw more. Well, no, now he is going to be the alpha dog in our receiver room. And that's the way we're going to pay him, because while he only had 105 targets last year, well, I think he's going to have 130 this year. And then in 2025, maybe he will be up to 150. Maybe we see him that way. So that's the argument for, okay, we're not going to pay you for what you did. We're going to pay you for what you're going to be. A lot of times second contracts aren't like that. A lot of times, sometimes players will get, whether it's free agency or if they get a second deal, you're paying them for what they did. Aiyuk may be one of the rare cases where you're paying him for what he will do. So that's both sides to look at it. But Kyle Shanahan is a run-first coach. So even when they had Matt, when he was the offensive coordinator of 2016 with the Falcons, Matt Ryan had a great year, won MVP, right? Phenomenal season. But Atlanta was still 26th in pass attempts. Now, they averaged a ridiculous 9.2 yards per attempt, but still 26th. So where did the Niners rank last year with the quarterback they finally trust? You know where they ranked? 32nd. That's last. They had 461 pass attempts last year, which was last in the NFL. But still, they were ridiculously efficient at 9.3 yards per attempt. And Brandon Aiyuk was a huge part of that. That 9.3 yards per attempt was a full yard ahead of the next closest team, which I believe was the Dolphins. But still, they were 32nd in attempts. Purdy had more than 30 attempts in a game just 5 times. So the question is, what do the 49ers value? Well, we're going to find out over the next couple of months. But where I worry about this, I don't want them to be playing games with each other for the next couple months, and then it's the end of August, and Brandon Aiyuk hasn't suited up or done anything yet. Yeah, because I think that's bad news. Nick Bosa admitted himself, listen, I wasn't really myself being last year. I needed that training camp to really get in football shape. And people could say what they want to. These guys are great athletes. John Lynch has said it. Bosa said it. They need camp. And when you're talking about a running back or a receiver, how many times have we seen guys not go to camp and get hurt early on? It's not what you want, especially in what really is another all-in season for San Francisco. You want Aiyuk there. So I just hope cooler heads prevail. And if it is that 28 number, don't play games for the next 2-3 months. Just get there. Just get it done. If both sides want to get done, get it done. But, I just laid out for you. Here's where the Niners might be coming from with their 26. And obviously Aiyuk is going to come in with, I was the 4th option or the 3rd option, and I still put up 1,300 whatever yards and was second in the NFL in yards per catch and had this amazing season. So imagine if you give me an opportunity. Imagine if you pay me for what I will do. He may be coming from that side. So we'll see where it goes, but I do feel like they're going to figure it out, but I also don't think it's a slam dunk that even though Bosa looked, it looked bleak at times last year, I still think at the end of the day that was a slam dunk, but we'll see where it goes. All right. The title of this podcast, if you're watching it on YouTube and what I led with in the show, who is the 49ers defensive player that no one is talking about that's going to make a huge impact and really may determine some of their fortunes this year? Been thinking about this as well. This name just keeps popping in my head over and over and over again. The Niners lost Eric Armstead. And you could say what you want to about, his stats, he'd been hurt. Did you watch him in the Super Bowl? Have you watched what he's done in the postseason? If you're really watching these games, he's still dominant on the inside. He can rush the passer. He can create havoc. He can stop the run. He's a terrific player. They are really, really going to miss him. People are saying, well, they got Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens. And, here's the guy to me that's going to make the biggest difference and make a big difference on this Niners defense if they're going to get back to being an elite defensive line again. I'm not talking about Leonard Floyd. It's Malik Collins. Trade that they made with the Houston Texans to get Malik Collins. To me, his play this year and how he does in the interior of that defense is going to make a huge difference. And Chris Kosuric was talking about him. He was talking to Matt Barrows about him, actually. And Kosuric said, I really liked him coming out of Nebraska, just the explosion that he can generate through his lower body. He jumps off the tape. He can play in the backfield. He can recreate the line of scrimmage, and he's really athletic on the backside to make plays. And then it's the ability to manipulate things in the pass rush, get a guard to lean one way and then beat him in another. And if you have a Floyd, the end quote there, this is me talking now. If you have a Floyd, a Hargrave, and a Bosa on the line too, and you have someone like him, it can even open up opportunities for those guys. So that's exciting to me because he had 16 starts with the Texans last year. He had 41 tackles. He had 8 tackles for loss, 18 QB hits, 5 sacks, and a pass defended. So he had a really solid year last year. And if he can come to the Niners and be similar to that, it can really help this team. And Kosuric also said that I really liked his skill set. He said that he thinks his skill set is tailor-made to play in the attack style nature that the 49ers play in. And he's played in some attack schemes throughout his career. He was down there in Houston, so there will be a lot of familiarity from working with D'Amico and those guys in Houston, and then coming here and doing a very similar type thing. So that gives me definitely hope for Collins as well, because I do feel like he's this person that they really need. He's already worked with D'Amico Ryans, right? He's already been in that system. So to come in, sometimes people got to come in and get used to the new system, and it takes time. He may come in and hit the ground running. So that is a huge part of it as well. So to me, that's the name. I'm sure 49ers fans know, local people are probably talking about it, but nationally, I don't think you're ever going to hear Malik Collins' names, right? If you turn on NFL Network or Sports Center and they're talking about the 49ers, talk about Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, with reason. Talk about the cornerback group, which I think is going to be really good this year, which are Charvarius Ward and Lenore. But Malik Collins, man, to me, that's the name to look at. I think that's a guy that can make a huge difference this year with the team, and that's somebody I'm going to have my eye on for sure.
What kind of programs does this school have? How are the test scores? How many kids do a classroom? Homes.com knows these are all things you ask when you're home shopping as a parent. That's why each listing on Homes.com includes extensive reports on local schools, including photos, parent reviews, test scores, student-teacher ratio, school rankings, and more. The information is from multiple trusted sources and curated by Homes.com's dedicated in-house research team. It's all so you can make the right decision for your family. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
You know how to book flights and hotels. All you're missing is a tool to plan the travel experiences you'll have once you arrive. That's why you need Viator. Book guided tours, activities, excursions, and more in one place to make your trip truly unforgettable. Viator has over 300,000 travel experiences to choose from. Everything from simple tours to extreme adventures and all the niche, interesting stuff in between. So you can plan something that everyone you're traveling with will enjoy. Real traveler reviews give the inside scoop from the people who've already been on the experiences you're considering, so you can plan with confidence. Free cancellation helps you plan for the unexpected, and 24/7 customer support means you can travel worry-free. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews or news, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue. And guess what? Now you can call them on your auto insurance too with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. Get your quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
All right, to finish this up, what was the last thing I've been thinking about lately? I'm thinking a little bit about Kyle Shanahan, and I mentioned Mike Silver earlier. I saw him, he was talking about his new book, which we're going to be promoting soon as well. And he was on Kay Adams, and he had mentioned he was talking about Kyle Shanahan, and I'll get to what he said in a second. But I had read a cool stat about Shanahan and sort of where offenses are going in the NFL. So when Next Gen Stats began tracking pre-snap motion, they did this in 2016. And the Falcons led the league that year, who was their offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, in running some sort of motion on their offensive plays. They did that 61% of the time. Now, last season, the 49ers used pre-snap motion on 79.2% of its offensive plays. The only other team with more was 80.3%, which was Mike McDaniel's Dolphins, which was the highest rate ever recorded by Next Gen Stats. So those were the top two highest rates. And obviously McDaniel is a Shanahan disciple. And Christian McCaffrey said, as a football nerd, it's fun to see. It's exciting to see motion like that, motions and shifts and different things that are trying to put guys in space easier. Now, the 49ers offense led the NFL with a success rate of 50.4% on plays that involved pre-snap motion. The other three conference finalists, so the four teams that made the championship games, Kansas City was 63.9%, Detroit 69.4% ran motion at the seventh highest and the fourth highest rates in the league. Baltimore 58.8% ranked 13th in that category. But it's 46.2% success rate ranked fifth for Baltimore. So, and Mike McDaniel said sending a player in pre-snap motion forces the defense to show whether they're playing zone or man coverage. It can use defenders to hesitate as they readjust. And McDaniel said because it's so sudden right before the snap, It kind of shows you the ins and outs of what defenses are doing. I thought it's interesting that that's kind of the way NFL offenses, right? It's copycat league, right? So you see the motions, these successful offensive using motion, and now you're going to see a lot of different teams do that. But Silver was talking about K. Adams because his new book is about Shanahan, and it's about McVay and McDaniel and Raheem Morris and kind of how these coaches are revolutionizing the game. But he brought up something in the interview with her that I thought was interesting, and it got me thinking about Kyle a little bit. Just what's that next step for Kyle? What's going to get Kyle over the hump, right? Because he's been a terrific head coach. He's probably a top 5-ish head coach in the league, but he hasn't been able to get over that hump. So one of the things is that Mike brought this up, when his offense is rolling, he's doing what he wants to do, the motion, the play action, when he's playing from ahead, he can dominate, right? Just rack up yards and scores and things like that. But where they get into trouble is when they have to drop back, when they're behind and they're forced to get into that drop back passing game. And I'm just wondering, we're seeing it now that they're trying to bring different wide receivers who are maybe a little bit better at separating in man coverage. Are they looking to not change the way they play offense, but just being able to adapt a little better when things don't go their way? Is that where Kyle's brain is? Because when you keep coming this close, maybe at some point you have to say, all right, is there something we can tweak to get a little bit better here? Is there something we can tweak to combat when teams take what we're doing away? I think that drop back passing game has something to do with it. And I wonder if you're going to see some changes. I wonder if you're going to see him do some things differently. There's pressure on Shanahan in the sense that at some point he's got to get over this hump. At some point he has to win a championship. But we've seen other coaches struggle with it. Andy Reid did. And right now that's going to be a footnote for Andy Reid because he's got 3 Super Bowl wins. So the struggles that he had early on in his career, it'll be like, yeah, it took him a while to get over the hump, but he did. He's a Hall of Famer, end of story. But 15 years ago or whatever it was, that's not what we were talking about. It was seemed for Eagles fans like the world was ending and he was never going to get over the hump. And unfortunately for the Eagles fans, he did that with another team. But I hope Kyle's not in that situation because right now Kyle is more Dan Reeves or a Marv Levy or Bud Grant than he is anyone else. He's a coach that's had tremendous success. That's gonna, if he stays on this trajectory, probably end up in the Hall of Fame or close to it. But he's got to win. He's got to win one champ. He's got to get over the hump at some point to really be considered one of the great coaches. And he's come so close and painstakingly close. It's not like he goes to these games and gets his ass handed to him. It's like one play, 2 plays that make the difference. Actually, in every Super Bowl, you could say that it was 1 or 2 plays. It just comes down to the wire, and they've had leads. So it's been really frustrating. It's been frustrating for us. You can only imagine with him, this is his livelihood. He lives and dies with this, right? So it's definitely frustrating for him as well. But I don't know. I thought that stat was really interesting. And it got me thinking about Kyle a lot. And it got me thinking just if he's going to change anything. He's got to feel the pressure, right? I mean, you just come so close over and over again, and you're the 49ers coach. It's not like you're coaching the Titans, where you're like, oh, 49ers, it's a glory franchise, it's one of the glory franchises of the NFL. Everything is magnified when you play quarterback for the 49ers or you coach the 49ers. So Kyle's in a bit of a pressure cooker this year. And the decisions that this team has made, they revamped the defensive line. Looks like they're going to go with Purdy as their franchise guy. They're kind of setting themselves up for the next window. So they've had this window that's been open, and their window's still open right now. The question is now, can they keep this window open with a new core of players? Difficult to do unless you have a Mahomes or a Brady at quarterback, because this guys who win playoff games that are special, you have to replace them and hope you can replace them with other special guys. That's not easy to do. A lot of teams with talent can't win in the playoffs. Just ask the Dallas Cowboys. The team is loaded with talent, and they have guys that can't get it done in the postseason. All those Packers teams, right? With Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, they got close, but they only got it done once. Niners have to get over that hump. We'll see if they can do it this year. So, all right, guys, that's my thoughts. It's June. That's just what I got going through my head. So what do you have going through your head? Send me a tweet, comment on this, comment on the show. Subscribe, please, to YouTube. If you're listening to the show on our podcast, please go to our YouTube station, 49ers Web Zone, and subscribe. That helps us a great deal. Click on the videos, watch the videos. Huge help for us. So appreciate you guys so much. We'll talk to you soon.
1, 2, 3.
2400 Sports is an Odyssey company.
Get the champagne ready. The NBA Finals are here.
Welcome to the NBA Finals.
Let's raise our glasses and our rings to the two phenomenal teams left standing.
My goodness!
Here's to high-stakes action, to thrilling moments we can't miss.
He ties the game at the buzzer!
And to crowning our next champion. Here's a toast to the NBA Finals. The 2024 NBA Finals, presented by YouTube TV, continue on ABC.